Hi, my name is Dallas Vesta, and today I'll be talking to my audience today about muscle cars. First, I will give you some brief history on how muscle cars began and got their name, and also I will define what makes a muscle car. And also, I will also give you some brief facts about my favorite muscle car throughout the history. First, how muscle cars got their names was because back in the good old days, two or three buddies got along and said, "Well, we're gonna carry some moonshine to the other people." So they have to run cars through the backwoods late at night to try to get some moonshine there as fast as they can and not get caught by the law. So what that boiled down to, in 1947, the National Associates of Stock Racing began, and it was very low class. No one really knew about it, and it wasn't very big. And where it all started was down south, because they all ran moonshine. They all did, and if they all say they didn't, they're a liar. Also, drag racing was a big part of it. Which drag racing, you get two cars hopped up. You get two cars, and it's a quarter mile or a half mile. You get a lady out there, you flag them down, they'd race all the time. And a lot of the cars, they were old Model Ts or Model A Fords. And they would be going down the street and just eye-catching, and everyone would know that was a race car, or a car that used to run moonshine because of how it sounded or how it was. Also, where it all began, there's an old Ford right there. Also, what defines a muscle car that we'll go into. What all started, a lot of it, was a 1949 Oldsmobile, which was called the Rocket 88. It had a V8, a very small V8, with a overhead valve, which was completely brand new to everyone in the world, because they never heard of anything. And it was usually a two-door coupe, small and reliable, light frame, light chassis. It usually had a bigger carburetor on it, bigger brakes, and like I said, overhead valve, and a bigger cam sometimes. Also, they came with chrome rims and dual exhausts, or they would have racing stripes or flames. And they would have hood scoops or blowers sometimes, so you could definitely point which car that was a race car or could outrun the police back then. Camaros were, and moonshiners would always, you could tell which ones had and which ones didn't have a lot of money, because they're street cars. Also, it all became down to it started NASCAR, and it started stop. I fucked that up, dude.
That was 336, dude. You were going. Was that 336?
Also, that brings us to the early era of 1960s, late 60s, which would bring out the Camaros, Mustangs, Thunderbirds, Oldsmobiles, all the souped up muscle cars. They officially got their name, muscle cars. And I would like to talk to you about the Camaro. It was actually supposed to be called the Panther. Back then they didn't know the actual name they wanted to give it. And I have it on here. This is 1969 Camaro, and they all came. There were 7 different styles you could get in a Camaro. You can get a RS, Rally Sport, or you can get an SS, which would meant Super Sport. And the Z28 was kind of one of the luxury models you could get. It had the bigger motor, bigger heads, cams, valves in it. Or you can get an RS/SS. And one of the top models that Camaro had, except from the Z28, was the Copo, which this guy came out and took about a handful of Camaros, and he put his own design into it, put a bigger motor into it, and made it more powerful for street racing. So it was a street legal race car, straight out of the factory. And then came Yinko, which was another company out of Chicago mainly. Chicago mainly built all the Yinkos, and there was maybe only 200 Camaros made. They would take the Copos and mix it with another guy's style, and he made it even more powerful and street legal. And it came with a 4-speed turbo-cooled tranny, which meant the tranny wouldn't get so hot if you're, just out causing a scene in the town. And then it came with a big 427 cubic inch motor, which was the thing that could beat the Mustang. It could outrun the Firebird. It can get the Challenger. It can do anything. And it had a hood scoop on there. It had the Yenko label, and it came with the big chrome rims and nicer brakes. Everything that you would want in a race car, but you had to get the Pacific Copo / Yenko sign on it. And these cars were very, very rare to come by, and they were really expensive back in that time. A Yenko Camaro would cost, back then in 1969, was $70 to $100, and in our time now, our generation, to find one of these cars, there's only 12 survivors out of the whole thing, and 9 of them were used for drag racing, so they're not in very good shape. And to even get your hands on one, it would cost upwards of $350,000 or more, depending on how rough or good a shape it was in. The last one that sold at auction was sold for $500,000, and these cars were insane. And these Camaro made their main name back in through '67 and '69. Is they always wanted to outcompete Ford no matter what they could do, even though the Ford Mustang came out in 1965, way before the Camaro was even thought about. But then Chevy got threatened to buy it, so they made this Camaro, and I hope that you've learned a little bit today about Camaros and everything. And I hope you enjoyed my speech today and learned some interesting facts about muscle cars and where they came from and how they all started and how NASCAR was actually affiliated with backroad bootlegging. And there's a lot of good facts that I've given you today in my speech, and I hope you enjoyed it. So thank you, and you have a good day.